Hi, I'm Sam Clayton.
And I'm Connor Spence.
Join us for a bumpy ride around the country,
where we'll be learning about the British car industry.
its past,
Present,
and future.
fasten your seatbelts,
Rev your engines,
and get ready for Biting Point.
The car I'm driving here is a 1972 MGB GT, which is described as the poor man's E-Type. It just makes a brilliant noise as well, so graughty. I love it!
My Mini here, it was one of the last 500 that were made. It feels like a proper race car. It's just good fun to drive.
An old British sports car on a country lane is about as good as it gets. It was in 1932 that the UK overtook France to become the biggest manufacturer of cars in Europe.
In the 1950s, just after the war, it's kind of when the British car industry started to reach its peak. It's where all the companies like Land Rover, the company that made this Mini, Aston Martin, Lotus, just started to really get off the ground.
Right now we're heading to the Haynes International Motor Museum to go and have a look at some of the British cars in their collection and learn a bit more about the history behind them.
Established in 1985, Haynes International Motor Museum is home to over 400 amazing cars and bikes, from the dawn of motoring in the late 1800s through to the nostalgic classics of the 1950s and 60s.
Right, Sam, this room is the Morris Garages room. And, you know, MG stands for Morris Garages. Yeah, this is the original MG midget. That was this particular one's 1930, and it was like driving an angry wasp. A Honda, Japanese car. Yeah. Oh God, Sam's found the Minis.
This is a prototype Mini, and that's a Morris red one. These are two longer Minis, and they've got a cool front. It's different to the others. This is like my Mini, only it's red. Spotlights. And this is why Minis are so cool, because they stuff everything in the front, so they're front-wheel drive, and that leaves so much space for the person to just have.
I thought I'd give Sam some alone time in the mini room and decided to find Matt Piper, the museum's curator, to find out more about the British car industry. Even though Haynes has such a massive car collection, there's one car which stands out to Matt the most.
It would be hard not to talk about the E-Type Jaguar when talking about post-Second World War British cars. This is the motor car that Enzo Ferrari himself said was the most beautiful car that he ever saw. The E-Type Jaguar was launched in Switzerland in 1961. The motoring world was absolutely wowed by this car. Not only did it have the capability to travel at 150 miles an hour, but it was affordable as well. Jaguar was undercutting other sporting manufacturers by about 50%. So for about £2,000, which was quite a lot of money in those days, you could buy a beautiful piece of kit like this car. It's clever, but it's also sad in a way that traditional British car making is being plagiarised. It's something really that Great Britain should be saying that we can still do.
So how do we define a classic car?
To be honest, I think it's very difficult. Yes, history will tell us that we like E-Type Jaguars and Lotuses and Aston Martins as well. But in terms of the future, I think only time will tell. Motoring relies on the enthusiasm of people like you, Connor, and Sam as well, with your MG and Sam's Mini, to keep the spirit alive, because ultimately it's your interest in classic cars which means they're more likely to survive.
Having visited places like the Haynes International Motor Museum and speaking to people like Matt, the curator, you realise how special these British cars are and how loved they still are, seeing the passion that people have for them. But the sad truth is that the British car industry was doomed from the 70s onwards, really.
Luckily, however, there's still some hope for the British car industry. For example, companies like Aston Martin, although they're a lot smaller than they used to be, they're still producing some pretty impressive cars.
Now we're on our way to Panorama Bay, a classic and contemporary car dealership where we've been given free rein to have a look at their collection and explore the commercial appeal British cars still have.
I'm the hippiest number in town, and I tell you why. I'm the snappiest dresser right down to my inch wide tie. And to get you why.
This car behind me right now is the Lotus Exige Sprint. It's an all-guns blazing British supercar. It does 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. It's got a supercharged Toyota engine and it's one of my favourite modern cars. The Lotus Exige Sprint was originally sold for just over £42,000. However, the one in Panorama Bay's showroom has some optional extras, bringing its value up slightly.
This here is the Austin Healey 100, which was built in around 1954. Most Austin Healey 100s sell for an average of £70,000. However, in 2011, one special test model sold for a world record-breaking £840,000.
Nice leather interior.
The Jaguar XK140's production was ceased in 1957, with less than 9,000 models being built. This means you could pay up to £200,000 to get an original right-hand drive example. Same price as a flat in Bath.
What? Oh god. I'm terrified.
We're in the XK140, and this is a really insignificant piece of the car. It's just the sun visor. But someone will have made that. They'll have cut the acrylic out and polished it. They'll have made that and made the little bracket and the little pins that clip it in. You don't get that on, say, a Golf or a Ferrari. The really sad truth about British cars, particularly, you know, the ones of the future, is that they're not built the way they used to be.
Well, Connor, just wait till you see this. The Aston Martin Vanquish S. Up to 600 horsepower, a top speed of 201 miles an hour, going from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. In other words, it's a beast.
This is Panch, a car enthusiast who's kindly taking us for a spin in his new Aston Martin.
It just moves so effortlessly. Yeah. So it's like 1 minute you're at 60, the next minute it's just gone. Like.
Yeah. This is of the range, this is the ultimate car. I've driven all of them, and this has got to be my favourite. I mean, let's face it, when electric cars come in properly, it's going to be just as quick as this.
Yeah, these Tesla things are mental.
Yeah, you know, I've got a neighbour who has a Tesla 100, and it's blisteringly quick. But it's not going to give you the emotion that something like this is going to give you.
No, just like the hing.
An old British sports car, whether it be the TR6, whether it be your MGB, whether it be this, it's always going to put a smile on your face. And I'm sorry, an electric car would never put a smile on my face.
So what's next for the British car industry?
With Matt, we've explored the history over the years.
At Panorama Bay, we've looked at its commercial appeal.
And with Panch and his new Aston Martin, we've looked at its promising future.
So maybe there is hope for the British cars we love so much.
Well, that's all from us. Thanks for tagging along. It's been a fun ride.